What's up, Airheads? Welcome back. It's time once again for Putting on Airs. I'm Trey, and that's Corey. I'm in Airstream Studios. He's in Airstream South down there in Georgia.
Mhm.
How's it going down there, Cho?
Well, it's good, except for one thing that just happened to me that I kind of feel it might be a stretch, but it's sort of POA related because I just accidentally ate old yogurt. I think yogurt is fancy, but eating old yogurt is trash. So I think it kind of fits.
Yeah.
And I did this about 30 minutes ago. And right before accidentally ate this old yogurt, I had also taken a pretty high test caffeine pill. And
Ooh.
when those two things hit in my stomach,
Mm-hmm.
what I just did to the turlet right
Yeah.
before I came up here was not good. So, normally I have to go take a pee break during the show. I have a feeling that it might be a butt break. So
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be
Butt
okay.
break. Yeah, that's a gut bomb you drew up for yourself
Mhm.
there. Old yogurt and caffeine. That'll do it every time, I reckon.
It
The
will.
old
If you're
yogurt.
constipated, go for it.
The old yogurt is sort of related to what I'm going to be talking about today. This is another idea from my lovely wife Katie, our set designer and everything. She said, Venn diagram, fancy and trash, where they overlap. Eating weird shit. Rich people eat a lot of wild and turns out cruel and unethical stuff. So that's fun to talk about.
That hits.
And delicacies are often weird.
Yeah.
And then also, trash trailer Americans, we eat some pretty weird and wild stuff too, but on the totally opposite end of the spectrum. So I thought that was a good subject, and I've got some good stuff for it a little later, after which you are going to be talking about what's Pro-Cho about.
I'm finishing up last week's discussion on Julius Caesar.
Right.
Last week we got so in the weeds. We were still talking
Barely
about Caesar,
started.
so it's fine. Yeah, right. We got so in the weeds talking about the mythology surrounding people like Julius Caesar that I didn't actually get into his life. So today we're going to finish that, and I'm super pumped.
Right on. Well, that all sounds fun, but before we get started, I know you're wanting to talk about Harry a little bit, which will also hit, but before any of that, I've just got a quick clip I want to show you. I saw this on Reddit last night, and I think it's very relevant to POA, and also it killed me. So I'd like to show you this clip free of context. Dale, producer, BPP, Big Papa
BPP.
producer. We don't even need sound, but if you could pull that clip up and show it to Cho here. All right, watch this, Cho. All right. It says, when Irina and Kylie show up in the same dress. You like that dress?
Yeah, that hits.
Yeah. Check this out. Watch this. Look at this.
What? What the fuck?
Can you believe that bitch wore the same dress to this? And if you're only listening, it's Kylie Jenner, whatever, in some supermodel, and they wore the same dress to a fashion event, but the dress in question has a gigantic lion's head on the side of it. So it's extremely ostentatious and over the top, and it's not like having something off the rack at Forever 21 that you both show up to the same frat party in. It's like that, but taken to the extreme. Now, I will say, some people were saying that there's 0% chance that this happened by accident because of the way these people operate. Because the designer that did that is super high level. She made a deal with Kylie to wear that dress. She also obviously knew the dress would be on the runway. So there's no way it was an actual mix up, but frankly, I don't care because that clip,
no, me either.
The way it plays out is just so beautiful. It's like a scene from a movie or a sketch or something. It's not another teen movie scene where the girl is naked. I can't believe she wore the same thing as you, and they're both just butt naked.
Yeah.
It's that joke, but in real life and with a lion's head dress. It fucking killed me, dude.
Yeah, I was going to go a bridge further and say that I could see Tim Robinson doing that on I Think You Should Leave or something. Because it's such a low concept. We're wearing the same dress to a party. High concept. It has a lion's head on it, and that's kind of exactly what he does.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
Have we done fashion before?
I did designer stuff. I didn't limit it to just clothes, but I talked about designer clothes, but also designer other things too. And then for the redneck
Big
version
Johnson.
designer was Big Johnson and No Fear and stuff like that, which still counts. But
it does. It does.
Yeah. I just thought that clip was POA appropriate and also very funny, but I have nothing else on it. So we can go ahead and talk about the spare, if that's what you want to get into.
Yeah, it is, Trey. I'm reading The Spare right now. I'm slowly reading The Spare, and I say that because I'm not shitting on Harry. It's not it. Okay, the book is interesting because he's spilling the tea on the royals, not because he's a great writer. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
It's an
if any,
autobiography,
yes, it's an
and you're listening to it,
autobiography.
right? Does he read it?
And he does read it.
Okay.
Man, here's that, and let me get to that. Let me get to something I wanted to say, but you just brought that up. Here's what I think is going on. Now, I have flip-flopped on Harry so many times. I know most sane people will be like, why do you have an opinion at all? Well, because of this show. I don't really give a shit, one way or the other, but I'm invested in it because it's entertaining to me, which is pretty much how I view all the royals. Like, I'm not like my mom who went, wore black for 10 days after the fucking queen died, but like they're entertaining to me. And so I've been putting this whole thing in my head together of like, he says that he wants to leave the royals because he wants to live. He doesn't want to be him and Meghan don't want to be in the public spotlight anymore. And then arguably he's been more in the public spotlight since he left the royals than before he left. Right. And I was thinking, here's what I think happened. I think that Harry has just found out the value of $1 for the first time in his entire life. I think that in his brain, he was like, oh, how much does one need to live? And then they cut his ass off and he was like, fuck me, I better write a book. You know what I'm saying?
How much could an ascot cost anyway, really?
Yeah, right. But don't you think there's a little bit of that to it?
Okay, well, first of all, I didn't know they cut him off completely financially. Because I haven't kept up with this shit really at all. So because I know from watching The Crown when old boy abdicated for that American floozy, which is still so wild. I know we talked about it on the show, but when that happened, he was like, ostracized, but he still had the money and shit though. So like with Harry. They cut it all because if they cut it all, yeah, dude, at some point you got to realize like I got to get something going. This ain't like this is gonna be a problem. I just kind of figured he was on the outs, but he still had some kind of fund he had access to or something. But I don't know. I haven't kept up with it.
With Edward, he did have money, but I think it was more of like an allowance that helped him maintain a certain lifestyle. But it's not like he still had access to the wealth of the entire royal family, probably. And I'd say that if Harry's not completely cut off, which at one point I read that he was, but if he's not completely cut off, I'm certain that he is not getting as much money. And so therefore, in order to keep up with, dude, imagine the lifestyle you're accustomed to if you're 38 years old and your entire life has been lived at Buckingham Palace. Like it's a lifestyle unimaginable.
So the way they put it, part of their rationale was we don't want to be in the spotlight anymore because if so, like you said, they've been way more in the spotlight now than they ever were before. But I guess I can allow for the idea that it might be a very different kind of spotlight. They're not in the spotlight in the context of they are actively part of the royal family. Do you know what I mean? They're not like, they're being judged against the standard of someone who has left the royal family and been kicked out of it as opposed to still being a part of it, which I think is probably at least a little bit different. So, but they've definitely, their profile is shot way up since they left, like objectively, and they had to know that was going to happen. You got to know that's going to be a big deal. So, I don't know.
As I said, I flip-flop back and forth on Harry because as someone who takes their mental health seriously, and I do, I've related to Harry in the, I've had depression issues and everybody was just like, suck it up. Nobody cared about those kind of things. And so when he comes out with that, I'm like, oh, I'm on your side. And like, yeah, man, like I know you're a privileged royal, but like depression doesn't discriminate and mental health doesn't discriminate. I'm for you in this regard. But then, like, he just keeps doing shit that I'm like, okay, but like, you could just not go on 2020. You know what I mean? Like, you don't fucking have to do that shit. So I'm reading the book again. I'm in the part that's, if another person had written this book with the same talent that Harry has for writing, I wouldn't have cared about it. But because it's him talking about his family and spilling all the tea, I'm super, super into it. And before we go any further on me breaking it down, I would like to play for you by far my favorite quote from the book right now. And I'm just going to play it for you here.
The past is never dead. It's not even past. When I discovered that quotation not long ago on brainyquote.com, I was thunderstruck. I thought, who the fuck is Faulkner?
What? So for those of you that couldn't understand, he goes, this is the quote: the past is never past, or the past
is
something
not dead.
about the past.
The past is not dead.
It's not even
in
the
fact,
past.
It's not even past. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. And he said, which is a William Faulkner quote, a famous William Faulkner quote. And then he says, when I heard about that quote on brainyquote.com,
hilarious.
I thought to myself, who the fuck is Faulkner? Now, a couple things to unpack here in this. Number one, when I first heard that, I actually got a little bit of respect for Harry, just a little bit, because he could have legally said that he heard that quote anywhere. That he didn't have to admit that he didn't know who William Faulkner was first. And he chose to go, you know what? I know it sounds dumb as fuck, but I'm going to be honest. I heard it on brainyquote.com.
Right. It's like, it'd be like if he said, like, I've recently discovered a veritable font of wisdom on the internet, a nice little resource known as Yahoo Questions.
Right.
Which are or Yahoo Answers, whichever one it is, but it's known as being like the dumbest place on the internet where people just go, dumb people go to ask other dumb people questions. It's like, that's such a basic, like, brainyquote.com. And also, I got to wonder, he said, who the fuck is Faulkner? Yeah. And it's fine. I got my seersucker on, but it's like, do they like condescend to American authors over there? Do you know what I mean?
Probably,
it's
especially
all
Southern
Tennyson,
ones.
All Tennyson and Byron and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't deign to read that peasant Faulkner and his hill ramblings, or whatever like that. Like, is that dude, what it is, you think? They just like, because, dude, a guy like that, he's getting educated on literature,
yes,
bro. Like,
for sure.
Like, I would have thought
that's almost
deep.
all.
I would have thought in terms of like, as far as literature goes and stuff, I would assume they're heavy on that. I would have thought, but if they're so like imperialist and fucking rah Britain and stuff, hail Britannia, that like they only fuck with like the British authors and poets and stuff, which there are plenty of them, then that's kind of hilarious to me. Cause I feel like you can totally see that. You can see them being that way. And it's such a on the nose thing to have happen. And maybe it isn't, but that quote right there makes me feel like that's what's, cause how do you not know about Faulkner, dude?
That's what I like. I agree.
It's got to be something like that.
Like he's one of, like, we know all of their best ones, you know, and we're illiterate hill people. So like, how did they not know our best ones? Cause like, dude, Faulkner, like, you can just accidentally know who William Faulkner is.
Right. Yeah.
Like
that's what I'm saying. It makes it seem like a purposeful exclusion from the curriculum. You know what I mean? Like American authors or whatever, they just don't do that because it's, it's beneath them or whatever.
Yeah. Harry kind of reminds me of my wife in this sense because Amber will also, like, I'm going to use this as an example just because this isn't an actual example, but it is exactly the type of things that would be. I'll be like, oh, did you see that new the trailer for that new Al Pacino movie? And she's like, who, Al Pacino? And I'm like, yeah, Al Pacino. Yeah. What do you? And she's like, Corey, quit doing this to me. You know that I just don't know people's names. And I'm like, Amber, you could literally have had your head under a rock for the past 30 years and still would know who Al Pacino is. So I feel like Faulkner's in the same vein. Now, I want to break down just a couple of things that I've discovered so far in this book. First, I would like to tell you that the chapters are comically short. I'm not even a third of the way done with the book, and I'm on chapter 62.
Holy shit.
Like, he's got...
Are they just like little mini essays or something? Is that what's going on? Like, about his experience?
Yeah,
like, is it linear? Like, does it start his childhood and go through, or is it just like a chapter on how he feels about soccer and a chapter on
no, it's
his mama?
It's linear. It's linear, and he's got 3 like sections, and I'm still in section 1, but he'll talk about himself in the army. He's like, I joined the army, and then the chapter is 4 sentences long. And then, so yeah, it kind of is like essays, but like they should have just, I don't know. It's just when you're listening and they go chapter 62, and then 2 seconds later, they're like chapter 63. It's like, dog, just keep it's all linear. Just keep it fucking going. But anyways, in the book, he says that Prince William physically attacked him. This apparently happened after a conversation they had, which William called Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive. And it escalated until William, quote from the book, grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and knocked me to the floor. So the heir and the spare in a little Tyson Fury. Yeah.
I mean, hell, they're brothers, even fancy brothers like that, I would assume, get into a little row every now and then. His necklace, though, he had chains. Question. Harry got chains.
It's just a gold Winston Churchill skull or something. King Charles, he has this whole huge section where he talks about his dad and how much he don't hit for his dad right now. And so Charles, this is the quote. King Charles tells him, "Don't make my remaining years miserable." So he says in the book, he said, "So though I'd flown home specifically and solely for Grandpapa's funeral, while there I'd asked for this secret meeting with my older brother Willie and my father to talk about the state of things, to find a way out. I tried to explain my side of things. I wasn't at my best. For starters, I was still nervous, fighting my emotions in keeping them in check while also striving to be succinct and surprised." So from this, he goes to his dad and he's like, "Listen, me and Meghan want to be out from the royal family." And Charles's response was, "Don't make my remaining years miserable," which really hits for me because it's so, Queen Elizabeth was the queen for ever, right? Ever. And it's like Charles is almost 80, so it's like he's had to wait for so long to be the king. 80? And as soon, I'm pretty sure he is.
I knew he was old and everything, but damn, I know he was 80.
He's probably like 77. She probably had him when she was fucking 19, dude. Yeah,
okay. I never realized she had him like that young. I get that it's like a whole thing. You got to breed if you got that good blood.
Yeah, back then they be doing that.
They do be doing that.
Because she got married quick on account of.
I've talked about kids before, but that's another specific one I could cover. Is having kids at 19. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or at least like back in the day. Like if you real fancy and you got nannies and governesses and shit like that, then go for it.
Have all of them.
If you're in a trailer, what are you going to do? Fucking hits, and here we are. Now there's kids.
So he also said that when he went to confront Harry, his dad, and William, they and all the stuff about, the royal family being racist had been out. All the stuff about the mean things they said to Meghan had been out. And he said that like when he went to talk to them about this, they genuinely were like, "Wait, what do you mean?" Like they had no idea that anything was going on, or like they either had no idea that anything,
insulated,
I guess, or they heard all of it and were like, "That's the way we're racist. What are you going to do?" Right, I don't know which one it is. Charles apparently jokes about Diana's affair with James Hewitt to the boys and did when they were kids. So he writes that his father would joke, he was talking to Harry, who knows if I'm really the Prince of Wales? Who knows if I'm even your real father? Maybe your real father is in Broadmoor, darling boy. So like he would just like constantly joke to them that Diana, or he might not be their father because their mom used to fuck everybody.
So he like knows, it seems to me like.
For sure.
I feel like that implies that he knows, because on that previous episode, y'all pulled up that picture of the dude who's, rumored
James
to be
Hewitt.
his father, and he looks just fucking like him. And it's like, so now knowing that Charles openly talks about it, I'm pretty sold, dude.
Me too. Which explains a lot of his what's the word here? Aggression towards Harry, or like him really being mad at him, you know?
Yeah,
Because
it's like
you're
Jon
not
Snow.
even
It's like Catelyn to Jon Snow.
and Jon Snow. Yes, exactly. God, that
Which
shit
was
pissed
not
me
cool,
off
by
with
the
her.
way. Yeah, I'm about to say, I don't
No,
support
that
you.
was
You
not
ought
cool
not be
at
like
all.
that, and Charles ought not be like that
No.
either. I don't support that. I'm just drawing a line between the two. Anyway, go on.
He also, even when the boys were young, he would get mad at Charles. Charles would get mad at them if they brought up their mother, because he thought it was disrespectful to Camilla. Like, in any situation, he didn't want to hear none of it. Like, them talking to, like, they could just be like, oh, I miss mommy, or remember when mommy used to take us to the countryside? He'd be like,
Bro,
stop it. This is different. Right. Lunatic shit.
Insane. Like, that's
Yeah.
truly horrific. I'm not surprised that any of these people are bad parents. I'm kind of surprised that they even like consider themselves as parents in the first place, because I know they'd just be handing them off, and then they, once a day for an hour, it's like, present the children, that'll be enough, and then they take them back out of the room. And so, they're not much in the way of parents, but shit like that is, I mean, that's real uncool.
That's fucked up, dude. Two more things before we move on. But he admitted to killing 25 people in Afghanistan, while he was at war, not just like when he was partying with his buddies, which is way different. But like, that's crazy, because like, I remember
really? What's his like position? What'd he do? I would have just assumed those dudes were like kept behind a fucking iron curtain. You keep your ass at the base, come out, wave at the soldiers every now and then, do something, whatever, but we ain't letting you do shit. And one of them like flew, right? William or Harry flew shit.
It's Harry was a pilot, just like
so he dropped bombs on people.
Well, that, or sniped him out of the helicopter or whatever. I don't know. But here's the thing.
Because I never in a million years would have thought either of those dudes was actually in the shit doing stuff. I'm stunned by that.
Me either. And let me flip it for you, because when I heard that, obviously, listen, fuck war, fuck having to do war, but like, we do have to go war. So like, God bless the boys that do it for us.
Yes.
But I'm the same way. But when I heard, I was like, oh my God, he actually saw action. Obviously, my respect for him, I was like, okay, damn, dude, like, you definitely didn't have to do that, but you got in some shit. But then this information was laid on me, and I was like, oh, well, fuck you. So the army, the British army, it wasn't like this is coming from the Queen. I mean, it kind of was coming from the Queen, but it was really coming from the British army. They didn't want him anywhere near any of the action, because he made them more of a liability.
Of course,
because any other company, any other army regiment out there from the other side that knows that he's about, it's like, we got to take them out, because if we get him, we won the fucking thing. Like, we can just capture him, and they'll pay any amount of money.
He's a hugely high value hostage target. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like, I would have assumed everyone involved would have agreed completely. He can't be nowhere out there, because it's just it's a problem for us.
Well, they did that, and he bitched and moaned and pitched a fit and was like, no, listen, it's not fair. I want to be able to do what anybody else can be. I don't want special treatment because of who I am. And they're like, we're not giving you special treatment because of who you are. You're a liability because of who you are. So then when I found that out, and I was like, wait a minute. So like, you not fighting would have actually served your country more, and then you chose to fight. Like, what are you fucking doing here? Like you need to do this so bad that you're going to risk your entire company.
I mean, I don't know. I still do understand where he's coming from with it. Like, I can respect the notion, of like, no, I'm just like anybody else. Although, like, I know in his head, he's like, I mean, I'm not, of course, we all know that I'm not, but I've got enough awareness and everything to at least say to all y'all that I'm not any different. And
I mean,
else.
He risked his life.
Gonna do that. Yeah, right.
He risked his life to seem that way. So even if it is an ego thing, like, he fucking did it. I can tell you right now, I ain't fucking fighting in no war. I don't give a fuck what happens. I don't give a shit. Dude, I'd have been the biggest draft dodging son of a bitch you have ever seen in your life. I promise you. I'd have been sitting right next to Woody Guthrie, smoking a joint and banging a black chick. Promise. So, you got anything to say?
Well, I mean, this is going to be raving, but it's true. Actually, I think it was maybe on a well-read episode when you weren't there. I feel like it was just me and Drew. I can't remember what it was for, but it was and I told him we were talking about 9/11 Natch, right? And
Yeah.
and I asked
That don't
him,
hit, by the way.
I was like, no, 9/11 don't hit. Everybody knows that. We've always said 9/11 don't hit. It's like Hitler. It's like genocide.
Genocide.
Those don't hit. But I was after 9/11. I asked him. I was like, "Did you try to like sign up or whatever?" And he was like, "No. What are you talking about?" And because the Army came to our high school and set up a booth in the halls of our high school,
of course,
in like the weeks after 9/11, and like I walked up to him and tried to, like, literally tried to sign up, but I was too young in 2001, and they wouldn't let me. And by the time I got old enough, we'd already started all of our bullshit, meaning like with Iraq and all that. We'd already done all that stuff. And I was like, that's true. I didn't have the real bad problems back then. I just had glasses. So they could just give me those military issue glasses. It would have been fine. But by the time I became of age, I had already realized like, oh, we're on some bullshit over there and I ain't about that. And so that sort of changed it for me. But I know how this sounds. But also when I was in college, I got like recruited by military intelligence because I took that ASVAB test, which you got a gangster story about the ASVAB test, which I respect. But I took it and murdered it as hard as you can because I was always a good test taker. And for every now and then and for a while, it's not regretted it, but I've got too many friends that were in the military to like regret it. But I don't know. I've always had kind of a thing in the back of my head about like, what if I'd have done that or whatever. But I mean, we were still like actively at war at that time, but I don't know. There's always just been part of me that's kind of, I don't know, gravitated.
Not me, buddy.
Yeah. I don't know. I've just always kind of, and I don't even feel it's like a serving your country.
Yeah, you're a fucking hero, Trey. We get it.
I mean,
we understand
pretty
why.
Much. I think that's where it comes from. Yeah,
how can I bear more of the world's weight on my broad shoulders?
Yes, that's exactly it.
I get you. Well, hey, speaking of war, I think you remember when Harry pretty famously wore that Nazi uniform to a party.
Yeah, we showed that picture on an episode. I actually didn't remember it until that episode
really?
When it came up, and then we talked about it. Yeah.
Well, so obviously we know that, but something I didn't know that I learned in the book, and this is my last fact here, he wore that Nazi uniform to a party. He claims that it wasn't his idea. And by the way, I would like to say that in the book, he expresses tremendous regret, calls himself a moron, says his only excuse is stupidity and naivete. So, like, he went, 2 whole paragraphs, which is 5 chapters. He explains how sorry he is. But he says that William and Kate are the ones that told him to do it. And not only that, so him and William and Kate are all going together. William dressed up like a lion, and all of them were joking. Like, he was in like a tight skin lion suit, and all of them were sincerely joking on the way there that they thought that William's costume was going to be the thing that hit the press because he was wearing such a sexy lion costume. And apparently it didn't even cross their minds that him wearing a Nazi uniform would sort of be a big deal.
That is so absurd. That's like so
I know, dude,
out of touch and disconnected and everything. That I mean, that's hilarious. Like that's like a comedy sketch almost. Like 2 brothers going to a Halloween party, and one of them is in a sexy lion suit, and the other one's like, oh, you establish that they're very famous, and the other one's like,
right,
the press is going to lose their minds over this. It's going to be all over everywhere. You're never going to hear the end of this. I don't know what you're thinking, buddy. And then he like opens the door and gets out, and he's got the swastika on his arm, puts on the Nazi hat, and goes to walk in. Like, except that really happened. So yeah, that's funny.
And
that's
I mean, it was like a war themed, party of some kind. You can't justify. He was dumb as shit, and he also admitted to doing a bunch of coke and shit back then. It's like, dude, if I've got access to billions of dollars and I'm on coke, I could see myself at 20 putting on a Hitler uniform and going to a party. You know what I mean? Who among us?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
that's all I got on Harry.
I mean, I've mentioned it before on the show so I won't do it again. I literally said the same thing when we looked at that picture of him in the first place. So no reason to do that. We'll just move on. Right after this
Let's
break, when we
let's actually
come back,
take a
I'll be talking about where the Venn diagram overlaps fancy people and trash on the subject of eating weird shit right after this.
Y'all, it is cold out there, but you know what ain't cold? My ding dong. And that's right, baby. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. We all know that confidence will take you far in life, and that's especially true in the bedroom when it comes time to step up to the plate, aka the crotchal region of the one you love, and that is where Blue Chew comes in. Trey, tell them about getting a new dick with Blue Chew.
Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. Also, you can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead to get down, or you can just be ready to get down whenever an opportunity comes up. The process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you will receive your prescription within days. That's the best part of the whole deal. It's all done on the internet there, which means no more visits to the doctor's office, no more awkward wiener conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy, running into your old guidance counselor, none of that, because Blue Chew's tablets are made right here in the US of A and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a very discreet package. Cho, tell them about the experience.
Oh, my God. Blue Chew made my dick like Nick Cage in Face Off, baby. It was a whole different thing, but that thing was good. My wife loves it. When that white envelope shows up, she knows that I'm about to break it out and blow that back out. You know what I'm saying? So if you could benefit for some extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. Have better sex. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free when you use our promo code POA at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code POA to receive your first month for free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
Are you feeling stuck making minimum payments on your credit card debt? SaveWithConrad.com can help, and you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Oh, and did I mention no house payments for 2 months? Get rid of your credit card debt and lower your monthly payments right now at SaveWithConrad.com.
And we're back, everybody. And let's get into it. So I feel like fancy and trash alike, they like to eat weird shit, although pretty different types of weird shit when you think about it. So I got a bunch of different examples first of all, I guess on the general subject, why do you think that is for either group, Joe?
Well, it comes down to necessity for the trash. Yes, I mean, absolutely. it comes down to pure necessity. You know, back in the slave times, they basically and a lot of poor Southern culture comes from slave times because that was a group of people who, if they were making this part of the chicken for the white man, all they had left was the trash, gross part, and they had to figure out a way to make it
get out of here.
Yeah, right. And they're like, sure will. I'm going to
pig
pickle
ears,
them. So,
pig ears and feet, stuff like that. It's like, do something with that, motherfuckers. And then they did. They made it hit. And everybody's like, God damn, man.
They can do anything.
Right. Yeah,
you think they can jump? Yeah. So obviously with poor people, it comes down to necessity. Gross, weird things are going to be cheaper because they're less in demand. I would say with rich people, it goes the other end of the spectrum, and it's an exclusivity thing. Things that are weird, but weird because they're rare, right? Yep. Just, I don't know, because like there's also like, I've seen like fancy restaurants where they have like glazed ants. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, those aren't expensive. So, but I've never seen a redneck be like, I'm going to put some ants on this biscuit. That'll hit.
Well, that's another element of this conversation, is that like some things that poor people made hit, rich people have since co-opted as they are wont to do. Do you know what I mean? Like okra and
lobster,
especially fucking. Yeah, lobster used to be poor people shit. A lot of people don't know that. But in more recent times, like fucking oxtails are expensive now.
Yep.
Like
such a
stuff
slap
like
in
that.
The face.
Yeah, it is. It is bullshit. But yeah, that type of, they be doing that shit. So that's another element of the conversation. But just talking about some of the things that rich people are into. First, I want to talk about some like gross examples that I feel like don't hit, and I don't really understand why they're expensive. But these are not like, they are expensive, but they're not outrageously expensive. We'll get to some of those things later. This is more like, I don't know why anyone would pay a premium for these particular things. So the first one is pretty famous. I'm certain you've heard of it. It may have even come up before. Kopi Luwak, which is that coffee that's made from cat poop.
Cat
beans.
shit. Yeah. I knew. Yeah.
So the civet cat or civet cat, wild cat, eats this coffee plant and can't digest the beans, and it shits them out, and then they make coffee out of that and charge you $100 for a cup. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, that's another one where, like, if I think with a lot of these, if you took people that had no idea what any of them are and you say, is this a fancy thing or a redneck thing? That one would fall firmly into the, I bet rednecks are eating cat shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
This one is another example of what you just said too, 100%, because this sounds like a necessity thing to me, but it's not. You ever heard of Kazu Martsu? It's a type of cheese. You ever heard of that? Off the top of your head?
No, but I bet it's like gross and moldy.
It's worse, in my opinion. So it's a Sardinian, so Italian sheep milk cheese that contains live insect larvae, i.e. maggots. Yes. So
Nope.
It's derived from pecorino. So you start out with pecorino, and then you take the larvae or the maggots of a particular type of cheese fly and deliberately
A
introduce
cheese
them.
fly.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that was a thing either, but apparently there's cheese flies, and you take their larvae and introduce it to the cheese, and it starts decomposing and breaking down the cheese in a way that's an advanced level of fermentation. The texture of the cheese becomes very soft, and it oozes liquid out the side of it.
That's called
it's
pus.
It's soft. It's oozing, and also you're meant to leave the maggots in it. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. The maggots cannot be dead. When they die and you eat them, that's a health hazard. So you're supposed to eat it. You're supposed to eat it with the live maggots still squirming around.
What are you, a
in there.
hillbilly?
Right. And it's since been banned, but you can still get it on the black market. But people banned it, I guess, because they were just like, this ain't it. But like,
no.
Yeah. And some people, if you want to eat it without the maggots, which I think makes you a pussy in their eyes, but if you want to eat it with no maggots, the way to do it is you put the piece of cheese in a sealed paper bag, totally sealed, so it's airtight. When the maggots start losing oxygen, they'll flip out and jump out off of the cheese. And then when the sounds of their writhing in their death throes subside, you pull the cheese out and eat it with no maggots before it goes bad. That's another thing. This particular type of maggot is able to propel itself up to 6 inches into the air. So,
holy shit.
So when they're eating it, they have to like shield their face from the fleeing maggots of the cheese they're eating. And this shit is expensive. But that one's less.
How much?
Well, again, I said these aren't that crazy. It's $100 a pound.
Let me.
But it's more like a traditional thing, you know what I mean, as opposed to like a rich people delicacy thing. But it's still fucking insane.
With that and the cat shit, I just need to know who the fuck was the first person to figure that shit out. Because like the first person to eat an apple, you see an apple, someone eats it, goes this hit.
Yes.
There's a whole process for this. It's not like somebody could accidentally come across a cup of coffee, drink it, and go, ooh, this hits, and somebody's like, yeah, it's from cat shit. Like, you had to fucking go through the process.
Now, I don't know about the cat shit coffee, but with the maggot cheese, I think it could also ultimately, if you traced it all back, it would come down to maybe desperation, like you said. Like somebody had a wheel of cheese that these maggots got into, and they were so hungry and had nothing else that they were like, well, what are you going to do? And then they ate it, and they were like, God damn, that's what's up.
If you're at the point of
Giuseppe, get over here. Try this worm cheese.
But if you're at the point to where you have to eat cheese with maggots in it, anything's going to taste good.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that all the time with a lot of foods. There's plenty more on this list that'll make you think that, I think. So moving into the more like exclusive for rich people delicacies. All right. So I'm going to save one for the end because it's my personal favorite. So we'll talk about, obviously we know about foie gras, right?
Oh man.
Foie gras.
Duck liver, right?
Foie gras.
Yeah. Foie gras. Yeah.
Foie gras. Foie gras.
Dude, I don't know. Who are you asking?
Right. So, yeah, fattened or fatty duck liver could also be goose liver. And this one's famous, so a lot of people already know the way it's achieved is you take a duck or a goose, you fucking shove a hose down its throat and then pump fatty grains and oils and shit like that straight into its fucking fat open gut until it gets big enough that their liver don't hit anymore, which, you know, it swells up to like 3 or 4 times. And apparently that's very tasty. See, rich people have discovered something, Joe, and this is going to be a running theme in here. Evidently, it's the suffering that do it. Right?
For sure.
Something about suffering seems to make animals rather tasty in the opinion of the world's elite, because it's going to be a theme. But yeah,
it's funny because it's the opposite with like most meats and stuff. Like a lot of hunters will tell you, it's like you want the animal to die immediately. You want a clean shot, because if you just wound it, it releases a lot of adrenaline, which gets in the meat that makes the meat tough. But then with the duck, it's the opposite. It's like, well, maybe its meat won't hit, but that liver, ooh wee, you know?
Right. Yeah. And that process is called, the process of force feeding them like that is called gavage. Gavage, which means to gorge. So
yeah, we've been doing that.
I've gavaged myself. Yeah, I'm about to say, I gavage the fuck out of myself all the time. I stay gavaging, matter of fact.
Me too. Matter of fact, when you first started describing this duck's ordeal, I was just like, that seems like a day at Steak and Shake for me, baby.
Right. Yeah. You just reminded me, this isn't directly relevant to this, but like, last night, I'd had a weed gummy, and me and Katie were watching Yellowstone. We just started. We're in season 2, right? So one time in season 2, spoilers, I'm sure all y'all already know, there's and I don't know who did this yet or how it works out, but his cows get poisoned, right? And it shows them throwing the clover or whatever onto the field, and the cows just run up and just go to town on it. And at first in my head, I was like, they so dumb. They just like eat up this shit that's bad for them, that'll hurt them or whatever. And then immediately I was like, motherfucker, who is you? Who is you to judge these cows? You know what you do. Like, act like fucking you don't do that all the time. Like every goddamn day I do that. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'll bloat. Bring it on, you know?
Yeah, dude. If you were sitting there, if I wanted to kill you and you were sitting there eating Taco Bell, unhinging your jaw and not looking, and I just sat a poisoned taco directly in front of you, you wouldn't even think twice. You'd just be like,
no, it's gone. I'd be so easy to poison, dude. We both would. Like we know this for a fact, because like people, and it's sweet of them, don't misunderstand me, but people will bring us food to shows, and we go in on it. We're like, oh, nanner pudding. You know what I mean? Like every time we're like, hell yeah. Take that straight to the dome. And it's like, that's kind of dumb. Like,
it's
you
very
ought
dumb.
not do that. Again,
matter of fact,
everybody who's ever done it has been sweet, and it's been great, and we appreciate it. But if you think about it objectively, like, you really ought not do that.
No,
and we've never thought twice about it, ever.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. We literally can't anymore, because if anyone sees this podcast, we've just given somebody an idea. So, like, I'm definitely never eating it again. So, but I mean, so many times we've done that.
Yeah, I'd be the easiest to poison motherfucker you ever seen, but
I think I'd be easier than you.
Moving on to the next one. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. I think we're around the same category.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's just call it a draw. I don't want to get into a whole thing over who would be easier to poison, because I'm sure it could be a huge argument, but we ain't got to do that. This one's another one you've probably heard of. Maybe not recognize it by name, but you've probably heard of the thing itself. It's called fugu, which is a Japanese dish. It's a type of puffer fish, right?
Okay.
And what makes fugu wild is that the fish itself is lethally poisonous to humans due to a high concentration of a chemical known as tetrodotoxin or tetrodotoxin, whatever. Some big long word that ends in doxin, right? And it has to be very carefully and meticulously and perfectly prepared to not kill you. In Japan, a chef has to have no less than 3 years of intensive training and be licensed to be able to serve fugu in their restaurant. And people still every now and then be dying from it.
Better be a banger.
And it's not, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny because there's an ancient scholar statesman known as souse wrote in one of his works.
No, shut the fuck up. That motherfucker's name is Sushi.
Bro, I didn't even realize it until you started laughing. But yes, his name is Sushi.
Oh, God
And
damn.
it was like
It's
a dude
probably
that hit.
racist to laugh, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's wild. So they've been doing this for literally thousands of years. And so Sushi, he from back in the day, and in one of his most celebrated works, he wrote that fugu is truly a taste worthy of death. So apparently it does hit. But that tetrodotoxin, that shit don't play. It's not like
Right.
you eat it and then you're like, ugh, and fall over.
Ugh.
The poison, if it get to you, it paralyzes all your muscles,
Like a
but
snake.
leaves you completely conscious, right? So
Oh,
all your
that's the
muscles,
worst thing I've ever
including
heard.
your involuntary ones, like your lungs and shit. So you can't breathe no more. You can't do nothing, but you're wide awake for all of it. And they like chance that because of how hard this fish hits, apparently. And
I'll
that
tell
is
you
some
this.
wild shit to me. Also, like you were saying,
I
the
would
first person
never-
to try it, the trial and error involved. Like,
Yes.
I'd say the first 50
Why would you do it again?
people, exactly. I'd say the first 50 people who ate this fish died like, ugh, you know, and they were like, I don't know. I feel like it hits though. I feel like it's got to hit. We could just,
Yeah,
we can just somehow get past that, you know,
get
but
past
like
the fish seppuku.
because it's such a specific method to make it safe to eat. It had to take an insane amount of
course.
trial and error, which killed a lot of Japanese dudes. It had to have, but they still went through it and figured it out. Like, it's just wild.
God
to think
bless
about.
him. I'll tell you this: I wouldn't try that fish. But if someone came to me and told me, "Hey, you know your mom's chicken casserole?" Yeah. Well, from now on, there's a 1 in 500 chance that you'll die from eating it. I would still go on. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So if somebody gave you this fish without you knowing what it was, and then you were like, "That's the most fire fish I ever had in my life," then would you go back after that if they told you, "Well, it's fugu"? And it's probably the odds nowadays how regulated it is. It's probably less than 1 in 500, but like people do
You're
still
saying
every now and then die. Very rarely.
You're
but
saying
they
that
do.
I didn't go into it knowing I was eating the death fish, but I ate it. It hit super hard for me. And then they were like, by the way, that's the death fish. Would I
Yes.
go back?
Mhm.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't like the way that if it was just like instant heart attack, I would try it now. You know what I mean? If it was just,
Right.
whatever, but like the whole, like your muscles seizing up and you're still conscious part is inarguably the part that bothers me there. Like if you just went the fuck
Absolutely.
out, I'd be like, well, frankly, this is a win-win. You know what I mean? I get some hitting fish and I might die. What a great day.
Right. All right. So moving on, another one that's very famous, everybody knows, Kobe beef. Which Kobe is a very particular variety of Wagyu. Am I saying that right? Wagyu.
Yes. Wagyu or
right.
Wagyu. I always say
Wagyu.
Wagyu. So I say it's
Wagyu.
wrong.
Wagyu is all Wagyu means is Japanese cattle, by the way. So it's just cattle from
Right.
Japan. And
Yes.
Kobe beef is a very specific type of Wagyu, which has become all the rage in America recently. But it's kind of like truffle oil and stuff like that, in that
It's
95% of the shit you get in America that they call Wagyu,
Yeah.
or especially Kobe beef, is actually
Not
it's
real.
not
'Cause-
at all
'cause
the real
Kobe-
thing.
Because Kobe is a specific farm in Japan, right? So it's kind of like champagne, like where it's like, no, if it's not from this region, it ain't that.
It's from the prefecture of Hyogo, and the capital of Hyogo is Kobe, Japan, and that's where these cows come from. The way they get to hitting like they do is they feed them a very special diet that's made out of all the things that hit for cows plus beer, basically.
Nice.
Yeah, so they get the cows drunk and fat and everything, and it's like, this goes back to our old argument about how hard it would hit to eat us. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, right.
we kind of been giving ourselves the Kobe diet, the Kobe beef diet this whole time. So we probably would be pretty tasty.
Now every time I toss a tater tot in my mouth, I'm going to go Kobe.
Right. Yeah. So legitimate Kobe beef is the most expensive beef in the world. There's only 3,000 head of cattle each year that actually qualify as authentic Kobe. And of course, we all know.
So we've never had it.
No, never. Not the real deal. But the reason it's supposed to hit so hard is that specific diet and lifestyle they subject them all to. And I say subject, I could be wrong, but that one kind of sounds like it hits. Like if you got to be a cow, getting drunk and having like the ultimate cow
all the
diet,
stuff that hits for you,
right? Is like, I mean, that sounds pretty good as far as being a cow goes. But that whole deal makes them exquisitely marbled, right? So
right.
the lines of marbling are the lines of fat that run through the meat of a cow, and they got marbling out the butt, perfect amount, or like the ultimate amount. So like, and also though, their fat renders at a lower temperature than regular cow's fat.
Oh, right? I love that.
So yeah, so it's like you get more of the rendered fat. It gets softer and that type of thing. I mean, that's what they say. Obviously, I've never had it.
That's what's up.
Yeah, bro. No, it sounds like it hits real hard.
If you don't render your fat, get the fuck out of my face.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now let's talk about some of the more overtly cruel ones. I know we already talked about foie gras, but so one that's pretty famous, shark fin soup. It's a soup popular in Asia. It's made out of a shark fin. Based on what I've read online, the shark fin actually don't even have a taste. It's just the texture it imparts to the soup is supposedly perfectly soupy, I guess. But like you can get that with cornstarch or whatever. Like
I was about to say,
you could figure out a way to get that, which is why shark fin soup is bullshit, because to make it, because it is considered a high-end delicacy, they like catch a shark, pull it up onto the boat, cut off its fin, and just push it back in the water. They don't do nothing else.
Eat the rest of the shark.
No, they don't. And it's still alive, obviously, but it dies shortly thereafter because they can't live without their fins ultimately. So they die a slow and painful death just for the fin, and all the rest of their shit goes to waste. I mean, I'm sure some crabs or whatever go in. Somebody ends up eating
I never looked at it like that, but
it's still
you're right.
fucked up though. Like obviously it's fucked up.
But to the crabs and stuff, the people on the boat are heroes because they just took out the monster, and now everybody gets to eat their butt. So that's pretty tight.
I guess that is one way to look at it, but
it's creating jobs.
We ought, crab jobs. We ought not, but yeah, we ought not kill sharks. In fact, it's illegal most all over, but there's still a black market for it. Because unsurprisingly, there are ways to replicate the effect of a shark's fin without using an actual shark's fin. Because of course there are,
like making a roux.
Right. Yeah. Any of those techniques you can use to fucking thicken a soup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
dude, I made a grilled onion and mushroom little roux last night to put in my soup, and goddamn, I mean, like perfectly thick, shark fin thick.
Right. So, and then I found a bunch of other ones that honestly, I'm not kidding, I think are too fucked up for us to like
even read,
to make comedy out of. Like briefly, there's like, well, there's a bunch of ones where it's like you can go to Japan and get a dish called ikirozuki or something like that, which is they just pull a live fish out and they cut it open in ways that keeps it alive and feeds you its living flesh. Because again, it's the suffering that do it. But it goes so far beyond that. In other parts of Asia, they do that with donkeys.
Oh man,
live donkeys. They eat them alive, basically.
It's so much different,
right? So that's what I'm saying.
Donkeys are buddies.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's like, I didn't even, we'll mention them and move on because that's not a thing even I can, hit about. So I guess.
even I,
well,
someone
we got to hit it
basically in it.
Yeah. No, I meant with animals specifically.
Yeah.
Like the whole squirrels don't love and nature's a nightmare and all that.
Yeah. I get you.
But that is your interpretation also hits for me. But so then I'll just do this last one. Then we'll talk about trash food and then get into you because we got to get to yo shit. There's a dish called ortolan. I hope I'm saying it right. It's originates, I believe, in France. It's Ortolan, ortolan. And it's been featured in some prominent media recently. And so people
Kylie
know about
Jenner's
it.
Instagram.
No, it was actually. It said it was on Secession, although I don't remember that. I don't think.
I don't remember that either.
It was on Billions, and it was on the show Hannibal. But here's what it is: it's like a European songbird. It's like this big. They're precious, right? And what you do is, again, keep in mind, it's the suffering that do it, right? So you catch one, you blind it, right? You keep it in a cage so small it can't move anywhere. Something about blinding it makes it easier to gavage it, to make it gorge. I don't know how that works, but that's what they say. Something about blinding it makes it just eat and eat and eat, right?
It can't see how much it's eaten, so it just keeps going.
Right. So you put it in a tiny cage where it can't move, blind it, gavage that motherfucker, right? Force feed it until it grows to like 2 or 3 times its original size, just like pushing up against the bars of its little torture cage, right? Then you take it, you drown it in a sifter of brandy, right?
Yep.
You drown it in a little cup of brandy,
like till it just little gurgle bubbles of bird breath.
Drown it / marinate it. All right. Then you quickly pull the feathers out, which don't take long because, again, it's a tiny and very precious bird. You pull the feathers out, put it back in the brandy, roast it in the brandy, right? When it's done, you take it, you put the whole thing in your mouth except for the beak. You hold the beak right here.
Yeah.
And then you bite down on it and eat the whole thing at once. It says the way the bones crunch and the fat seeps, and also the lungs are filled with the brandy, so it's like a murder gusher. It's like a hell gusher.
Get you drunk.
The brandy's on the inside of the little baby's lungs, so when you bite into it, it pops in your mouth. It busts in your mouth, and you're like, "This is what's up." I
love when things bust.
But here's my favorite. First, it's so comically over the top, horrific, and everything. But here's my favorite part about it, though. And I actually sent you this years ago, or at least a couple years ago. I'm sure you probably don't remember. I sent it to you in the thread. Part of eating it traditionally also says that before you put it in your mouth and bite down on it, you cover your head with a napkin first.
Oh.
Do you know why?
I thought you were about to say you have to set an all-out strike on Afghanistan or something. Put a napkin over your head to keep it kosher. In order to hide your shame from God. I swear. That's part of the process. Hiding your shame from God. Like turning a picture of your dad around when you beat off or something?
Yes, you block. It's like, because God can't see you if you got a napkin on your head. But yeah, that's part of the traditional process of eating this bird. But I sent it to you a couple years ago, and I was like, hey, we need to remember this for the next time we raid the Hotel Sundry at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? Because we got plenty of shame. We need to be hiding from God. But yeah, that's my favorite part of it. And so that's my favorite entry.
So like they're very aware of how, because a lot of these people, I feel like they don't know how it's lost on them how horrible it is. But these people are like, we know. By the way, whoever came up with the cat shit one, just a lunatic. Whoever came up with a couple of the other ones, just a lunatic. Whoever came up with this one was also a serial killer. You know what I mean? Because they were clearly just torturing a bird and then decided to eat it and was like, well, I'll be goddamned.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you don't care that much about the welfare of an animal, the force feeding is already an established technique.
Right.
Marinating it in brandy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's horrific, but like, you know, I guess I can see the train of thought that leads to this will hit. But anyway, all right. So trash food, poor people eating weird shit. I think the perfect crossover here between the two is pate / potted meat, because potted meat is just trailer pate. That's all that is. But one of them hits and the other one don't, according to, fancy people.
I was about to say both of them hit for me.
Oh, me too. I love them both. So, like you said, a whole lot of most of these really are born of necessity. Honestly, looking through my list, pretty much every one of them is born of a necessity. But we already mentioned oxtails, pig's feet, pig ears, chicken gizzards, chicken livers, stuff like that. There's also this is the redneck fugu fish. I think poke salad. Yeah.
Poke salad.
Poke salad.
Yes. Because Granny used to go to the side of the road and get a bag.
Right. Well, that has to be cooked a particular way or it'll poison you too. Not like that fish will. It won't kill you, but it'll fuck you up if you don't cook it in the exact perfect way. And you're like, why would they eat that? Well, again, they had to eat something. And then they're like, you know, if you do this right, it kind of hits. Some of the things I found on lists of like foods Southerners don't know are weird really applied to me because I was like, wait, that's weird. Like pimento cheese. I know pimento cheese is like a Southern food, weird. But that's weird to people.
It's fucking cheese, roasted red peppers, and mayonnaise,
right? Yeah,
like it's not like a pimento is like the asshole of a bird.
I knew pimento cheese was a Southern food, but I didn't know it was the type of thing that other people would be like.
That's another one. By the way, that's another one that they've co-opted big time in the fancy world. Like you see deviled eggs and pimento cheese and shit in a lot of high class places.
Yeah. I know hipsters be pickling, but so do Southerners. We'll pickle everything. We'll pickle pig's feet. We'll pickle eggs. Where you at on the various pickled items, Joe?
I've never had one that I didn't like at least a little bit. I obviously have my levels of how much I like them. Like pickled pig's feet, like taste good. It's a weird texture, and I don't have to have them, so therefore I won't. But if I was somewhere and like the host was like, "Hey, I got a snacks. It's pickled pig's feet," I'd be like, "Okay, you know, I'm in." Love pickled eggs. Don't have them enough, in my opinion. Want to start pickling them myself because pickled eggs are so fire on a salad. Because you're getting that vinegary mess too. It's awesome. But dude, I mean, you know me and you are pretty similar in this. Like there's not a food that I absolutely just detest.
Right.
And I love vinegar so much.
A Southern dessert of sorts, cornbread and buttermilk. Right. That's
so good.
That was very popular for a long time, still is. There's red eye gravy. My mom used to make red eye gravy. You ever had red eye gravy? It's pork drippings I've had and coffee. My granny, pork drippings and coffee made into a gravy.
Yeah, I've had it, but my granny was just a straight sawmill gravy person, you know, which obviously ain't nothing wrong with that.
This one I wasn't familiar with, or I feel like maybe I've heard of it, but definitely wasn't a thing around where I grew up. But Kool-Aid pickles. You know about Kool-Aid pickles?
I just now heard about those 2 or 3 years ago. Amber sent me a link, and it was like somebody on TikTok had made Kool-Aid pickles, and they were doing all these different flavors. And I remember thinking like, man, that's ridiculous. But then the other part of me was like, I mean, I bet I'd like them, you know?
Yeah.
Like a blue raspberry flavored cucumber pickle. Why not?
Specific combination of popular items, peanuts and Coke, peanuts and Coca-Cola. Yeah. That was a huge thing in my high school.
It was Dr. Pepper for me, but yes.
I get it. Yeah, mix it up, doctor it up a little bit. That makes sense. Dr. Pepper it up. Yep. Huge one in your household and in the entire state of Georgia. One which I must admit I'm not a big fan of is boiled peanuts. I've never been into boiled. Sorry, I know that's the official state gas station snack in Georgia, but
that's okay. I understand people not being into them. I find that the boiled peanut kind of has a bean thing going on. It's really more of like a bean. They turn into like a mush. I'm
exactly that mushes them up, and like I just that ain't what I want out of a nut or a peanut. Is
I hear you.
The mush, you know what I mean? I want the crunch, not mush. For me,
I hear you. But yes, my wife subsists on them.
Two of my favorites, Eatin sausages and souse meat. Used to fuck with both of them. Heavy, yeah, absolutely fire. It's funny that the sausages are funny because like their name is Vienna sausages, which is like is fancy, but it's like, who are you fooling?
Exactly.
Nobody. And then the target demographic was like immediately turned it to it's Vienna sausages. You know? It's just so perfect. And souse meat is where you basically like boil a pig's head and put it in a pile and then it congeals together and you slice that and now you got souse meat, which was a personal favorite of mine back in the day. One that I think has spread around more, but I know there was a point there where it was very localized in certain parts of the South, including the part where I grew up, is chocolate gravy. Like in Salina, chocolate gravy is a huge thing. And I didn't realize till later on that it ain't like that everywhere. Like there are other pockets where people fuck with it, but it wasn't like a overall traditional thing. But I think it spread some now. But yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you get it. It's just chocolate gravy. It's not like sausage gravy that's also chocolate. It's, it's like a chocolate sauce you put on your biscuits. It's fucking fire.
It's
Fire.
big in Kentucky. The first time I had it, I was like in 7th or 8th grade. I was traveling with my buddy Andrew Quinn, and we were going to his grandma's house. And we got up, and she's like, "I'm making chocolate gravy for the biscuits." And my brain, because I didn't know that was a thing, went, "Oh, it's brown gravy instead of white gravy," and they just call it. Probably one of the kids said, "Oh, that's chocolate." You know what I mean? I'm like, they just call the brown gravy chocolate gravy. So when I first dipped my biscuit in it and ate it, it was like when you think you're drinking a Coke, but it's tea, and it's like, it's not that tea don't hit for me, it's that I was expecting the carbonation. But then once I got over that, I had never been so pleased to be wrong in my life. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
It's so good. Chocolate gravy's the shit. You get some bacon with it, it goes hard. And then, all right, here's another one that is all over the place in the South that also, even in my fat kid days, never hit for me. I don't know what to expect out of you on this. I don't know where you're going to be on this one. But ambrosia salad.
Hey, I love it, dude.
Yeah.
It's the mandarin oranges,
Cool Whip and fruit and marshmallows and shit, all in a big ass bowl.
I love that
just
shit,
like
dude.
pink slop, dude.
Pink stuff, man. That was my shit.
Yeah, I never fucked with that shit ever.
I'm telling you, man.
I still don't like it, but it's hugely popular.
It's not hyperbole with me. I love everything. It's just to which degree do I love it? There's things that I love less, but I love them nonetheless. Like there's not a fucking food that you could bring to my house that I wouldn't throw down on. Yeah,
and then also another one that's sort of the fugu of the South in a different way, chitlins. Is some wild stuff. If y'all don't know, chitlins are like the intestines of a pig, and you got to clean the poop out, and it takes like 3 different run-throughs in water to clean them adequately, and at which point you can then cook them again. Another one, obviously, born of necessity. So I'm saying you guys send us emails and stuff. I bet some of y'all probably got some wilder ones that I didn't name.
That Mexican lady, too, I bet has some wild ones.
Right. And if you do, hit us with it. Let us know. I think that'd be fun. But that's it for my food discussion. I went plenty long enough. So we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, it's going to be History of Professor Cho, continuing on the subject of one Mr. Julius Caesar. We'll be right back.
Y'all, the wait is over. Quality steak, free shipping, period. The Backyard Butcher's restaurant quality steak boxes are now available online. Get steakhouse quality, bulk meat specials, responsibly sourced from America's farm, delivered right to your door. And right now, for a limited time, Backyard Butchers is offering our listeners 15% off, free shipping, and 4 free ribeyes for life. Oh my God, with every subscription. Imagine opening up a box of high quality meat and being able to recreate the steakhouse experience right in your backyard, less than grocery store prices. That's exactly what you'll get when you order from Backyard Butchers. Trey, you've eaten the Backyard Butchers meat, correct?
Boy, have I. Let me tell you, a few things in life have hit for me more than getting my own big box of meat delivered straight to my door, buddy. I got a big old box of steak. It's like Christmas morning opening that thing up. And thing I love the most about it is like, I feel like I'm living like either like a duke or something, or maybe a cowboy. One of the two, just some kind of man that's better than me, because like I'm eating steak and eggs every morning. You know what I mean? Like if I'm coming in for lunch and I just want, throw something together. Well, now instead of like a turkey sandwich, it's a T-bone if I want to, because I'm a grown man and I got a box of meat and I can do that now. The steaks are incredibly, incredibly good. They're so tender. The quality is amazing. And it's been one of my absolute favorite things. And the best part is you can beat inflationary pricing at the grocery store and save big on your family's dinner budget. Just cut out the middleman grocery stores with responsibly sourced 100% American beef, pork, and chicken sourced from farms all across the heartland. Backyard Butcher's meat is fresh, safely packaged, and delivered to your door in an eco-friendly insulated box. Their boxes and packing are specifically designed to keep your meat within the optimal temperature range. They have tremendous customer service that sets them apart. If you need help with your order or grilling tips to get the most flavor out of your meat, you can chat with their seasoned butchers online 7 days a week at backyardbutchers.com. Cho, tell them more.
Well, first off, I've got a ribeye sous videing downstairs right now that's been in there for 8 hours, so I'm taking it up another notch. One great thing about this, too, by the way, there's no memberships or subscriptions. You just go on there, you're like, boom, meat, I want that, and you can cancel literally any time. But I guarantee you, once you've had this meat, you're going to be back for more, baby. And with our deal, You're going to get 15% off, free shipping, and 4 ribeyes for life. And that is by using the promo code POA, 15% off your order, free shipping, and 4 free ribeyes for life. It's absolutely wonderful. It is my favorite meat, and y'all can get some too. Like I said, promo code POA to get 15% off your order at backyardbutchers.com. It hits.
It does hit. All right, y'all, we're back. It's time once again for everybody's favorite segment, History with Professor Cho. We started it last week, so you know what we're doing. Let's keep going with Julius Caesar.
Here we go, Trey. He was born in July 100 BC, pretty long time ago, in Rome to a well-connected family. His father was a praetor, and I decided to go further on that and find out because I'm like, what the fuck? Do you know what a praetor is off the top of your head?
Is it like some sort of officer or something like that, equivalent of like, no, I know they were like, they had power over people beneath them in the structure, like a praetor was like some kind of something you had to listen to if you didn't hit, right?
Yeah, it was they were a high-ranking official in ancient Rome. The praetors were responsible for the administration of justice and were considered second rank to the consuls. If you wanted to be a council dude, you had to be like a praetor first. Like that, it was like a congressman, senator to president or whatever.
Right,
so
right.
his family was not wealthy per se, but they were very highly influential in Roman society because his father was a praetor. And I assume that had his father not died of a heart attack, possible heart attack. Caesar's 16, his dad drops dead while tying his shoe, or more likely Jesus' sandal. And so they say, yeah, that was probably a heart attack. Otherwise, they probably would have went on to be wealthy because he was a very, powerful man. So he was educated in Rome. He studied rhetoric, Latin, and Greek. He began his political career as a very young man. At the age of 16, same year his father died, he was appointed as a priest of Jupiter, which was a significant. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, Jupiter. Well, I just know that Jupiter is like one of their top gods. He's near the top of the hierarchy of gods. So I feel like if you get assigned, I've never thought about how, did that mean all of their gods had their own priests? Because that's a shitload of priests, dude. They had a bunch of gods. But if you're going to be priest of a god, Jupiter's definitely near the top of the list. So
right. So it just says being a priest of Jupiter in ancient Rome was a significant religious and political position. I mean, I assume if they're going to give Jupiter one, they can't slight the other gods. Otherwise, they'll make the oceans rise,
Well, he did. Well, sure. That does make sense. Although, again, Jupiter was near the top. So some of them down closer to the bottom, they were probably like, yeah, you don't get priest. But I don't know. Maybe not.
So here's something I definitely didn't know, and you may have, but I feel like me and you would have talked about it. In 75 BC, so he is 25 years old, he was traveling by boat from the island of Rhodes to the city of Pergamum in Asia Minor, and along the way, his ship was intercepted by a group of Sicilian pirates. So Caesar...
I actually do know this. Do you know why I know this? Because it is covered in Spartacus.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if they covered this part.
Bit.
Let me read the full story that I've written in my own words. That way I don't get in trouble for saying it verbatim. But so the pirates captured Caesar and his companions and demanded a ransom of 20 talents of silver, which was a large sum of money at the time. Instead of being intimidated, Caesar used the opportunity to show his leadership skills and bravery. He is said to have told the pirates that he was worth way more than that in ransom than what they demanded, and they should ask for 50 talents instead. He also taunted them and told him that he would come back and crucify all of them once he was freed. Caesar's companions, who were terrified by the situation, begged him to stop taunting the pirates and just pay the ransom. But Caesar ignored them. The pirates, who were impressed by Caesar's bravado, raised the ransom to 50 talents. Caesar's friends and allies quickly paid the ransom, and Caesar was released. After his release, Caesar raised a fleet, tracked down the pirates, captured them all, and crucified their asses.
Yes. Now, they didn't get into all of that in Spartacus, but I do know that story, and it's touched upon in Spartacus. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the most gangster fucking moments of all time, right there. I mean, come on, it's hard to beat that. Just sitting there talking shit the whole time is like, that's all you're asking for. You know how much I'm worth,
Shit.
motherfucker. If you don't get more than that,
You know how
I'm
much
gonna
I
come
hit?
back and nail your ass to a cross. God damn it! And then he did all that. Circling back very quickly to because this god popped in my head. Corey, do you happen to have a favorite of those old gods? Because if you don't, I've got one for you.
I don't, but I assume this one's about to be the god of lethargy.
No, it's Dionysus, who's basically the god of Hittin.
Oh yeah, we've talked about him.
He's
haven't we?
the god of wine, pleasure, festivity, madness, and frenzy.
Yeah.
So he's the god of chowing out.
Okay.
Basically, there's a god of chowing out, Dionysus. So that needs to be your guy.
I get a tattoo of him. That would hit.
Yeah.
He served as a military commander in various campaigns, including Gaul, which is modern-day France, and Egypt, where he becomes the governor of Egypt. And as we covered on a past episode that you can check out in the archives at watchpoa.com or wherever you get your podcast, while he was in Egypt, he had a romantic dalliance. I chose that word, by the way. Fuck you, Trey. He had a romantic,
great word.
He had a romantic dalliance with Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt, and they had a child together. He returned to Rome as a war hero and popular leader, gradually increasing his political power and influence, was appointed governor of Gaul, who he had slain everybody there in 50. I guess it's pretty easy to be governor when you just kill every motherfucker in Gaul.
That's sort of how governors used to get made, dude. You go there and just kill pretty much everybody, and then you're like, I'm governor now. And they're like, well, fuck, I guess he is. What are we supposed to do? He killed everybody that hit at fighting. So, yeah, he's our governor now. Real quick, also, the Cleopatra thing, did you find in there? I feel like
the rug
this came up before when we talked about Didn't she
we talked
meet
about that,
him by having herself smuggled? Okay, we talked about that.
No,
she got
but
smuggled in the rub and then unrolled out of it, which is like, I feel like I don't care how hard you hit. That's got to be the least sexy way to introduce yourself to a potential suitor. Is like flopping out of getting unrolled from a burrito. You know, but it's always been funny to me. But hey, it worked.
From Caesar's point of view, though, you see a lady who wanted to meet you so bad that she rolled herself up in a rug. You immediately go, she sucks dick. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like, yeah.
You know, that was the old she smokes, she pokes. If she gets rolled up in a carpet, she'll take it in the ass. So Caesar... he led the Roman army in Gaul for 8 years and won a series of victories over the Gauls and other tribes, consolidating Roman control over much modern-day France and parts of Belgium, Switzerland, and Germany. It's estimated that he killed over 1 million Gauls, quite a haul back in the day, a Gaul haul. The Roman army under Caesar's command is said to have committed war crimes, you don't say, including the indiscriminate killing of civilians, the enslavement and forced relocation of entire communities, and the destruction of entire towns and villages, or what they used to call it, war.
War. I was about to say, there ain't no way. That's clearly a modern interpretation of that.
Yeah.
Like, right. And now people will call those war crimes, but back then there ain't no way there was any kind of right. They didn't have no rules like that.
Dude,
about it's just what you do. It's like, these people don't kill them all, my land, and then go on about your day, go on to the next place.
The phrase "it's all fair in love and war" didn't get made up for no reason. You know what I mean? That used to, like, before the goddamn Geneva Convention, nobody gave a shit. He is also said to use scorched earth tactics, which involves destroying crops, livestock, and infrastructure to deny the enemy resources. So just, burning everything and being like, y'all ain't got nowhere to go except for over here, where if you don't bend the knee to me, I'll fucking kill you.
Right.
Which, frankly,
General Sherman shit.
Exactly. He was known for his military genius. People still apparently study Caesar's tactics to this day. Like in war, even though the technology gains we've made, like, apparently strategies still kind of stay the same. And it's like wild to me, because this was like, I mean, I know war's been going on forever, but like, war is such a crazy fucking thing that someone gets good at. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in World War II, you had all these dudes who, like, some of these people, it was their first war. And they got drafted and they went to war, and they get over there and it's just like, damn, this is my shit. Like, I'm just real good at war. And that's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about it last week. Like, sometimes you're born with it. You're either born with it or you ain't. Apparently that applies to war too. And sometimes a person who's born with it ends up going to war and realize this is my thing. And, I mean, that shit is pretty wild. It's like, also, you watch like action movies and stuff, and I don't know, obviously a lot of action movies are silly, but war movies, whatever else, and the protagonist will just go through this insane shit where you're like, no one would make it out of that. That would never happen.
Yeah.
But the truth is, a lot of our like
That's
actual real life war heroes, they did shit like that.
That's
like,
why they're war heroes.
That's the reason they're war heroes. So from a movie perspective, it's kind of like that's why he's the protagonist.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's like it's the same rationale. Like Audie Murphy or whatever. Like that motherfucker, he did wild shit. Alvin York. Like,
dude,
it
Tennessee
does
boy.
happen. Absolutely is.
So Caesar's expansion of Rome territory and military campaigns also had an impact on the economy as it brought in wealth and resources that helped the Roman Empire to flourish. He implemented a new calendar. He improved the infrastructure. Obviously all these are helping build the Roman Empire. He returned to Rome in 49 BC, but tensions with the Senate and other political leaders led to a civil war. His rise to power was not without opposition, Trey, and many saw him as a threat to the Roman public. And the reason for this, it was based on a balance of power between the Senate and the popular assemblies. Caesar's growing power and influence were seen as a challenge to the authority of the Senate, and many senators feared that he was seeking to establish himself as a dictator. So yada yada.
Caesar.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's fun. It's like I don't know. I know that ended up becoming how they were called Caesars or whatever.
And why they're czars now. Yeah.
It's funny to think that like Julius Caesar. You know, it's funny to think of people being like, I think this guy kind of wants to be like the guy. Like something about this Caesar guy. Just feels like he wants to be in charge, And I mean, again, I know how it played out, but it's funny to think about.
So they're all worried that he wants to establish himself as dictator, right? In 45 BC, Caesar defeated his opponents and emerged as the sole leader of Rome, effectively ending the Roman Republic and establishing him as dictator for life. On March the 15th on the 15th of March, 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated during a meeting of the Senate. He was stabbed 23 times by a group of senators who were unhappy with his rule, and he died from his wounds. And Trey, let me ask you this. If Twitter had existed back then, what would it look like?
Mm-hmm. Damn, Brutus, that shit was cold-blooded. #@2, homie.
Here's
there you have it.
Here's some fun.
So like they were worried about him taking over and becoming dictator. He does. And then if I heard the dates right, 10 plus years later, they were like, yeah, this has been way too much dictator stuff. We're going to have to stab this motherfucker.
100%. 100%. So there's Caesar's life. Let's get a couple fun facts and we're going to get out of here. Caesar was said to have been a great lover of music, and he's said to have composed several songs and hymns himself, much like a man who also Nero and Henry VIII. Caesar was said to have had a fear of thunder. This is crazy. He was said to have had a fear of thunderstorms and was said to be like cripplingly afraid of the dark, which is really wild to me because I'd say that so much of war happens in the dark.
In the dark, yeah. I mean, if you're trying to hit at war, you're going to need to do some shit in the dark, I would imagine. Yeah, the dark is wild. Thunderstorms, I feel like back then, people
it was all thunderstorms.
No, I think they were like, man, Zeus is pissed off, dog. Like, I don't know what we did, but Zeus seems real mad. I really hope Zeus don't kill us right now because he's throwing down on us. So we must have pissed him off. You know what I mean? Like, I can see being afraid of thunder if you think Zeus is real.
Fucking stupid. Caesar was also known for his love of animals, especially elephants, and he had a pet elephant named Surus, which means the Syrian, and he used to like ride it in his military campaigns. He'd just be up on an elephant hitting, which does hit.
Matter of fact, by the way, because I looked this up because I thought this just so we don't get emails about it. I just referenced Zeus. Zeus actually, Jupiter and Zeus are the same dude. Jupiter was Zeus.
You're still going to get emails about it, by the way.
Right. The Romans stole all the Greeks' gods, basically, and Zeus was Zeus in Greece, but in Rome, they changed it to Jupiter. So, yeah, he was basically a priest of Zeus. And so, like I said, that's as high up as you can go.
Someone has already stopped the podcast to send us this email and doesn't know that you're about to clarify it yourself. And last fun fact, he was known to be a fashion icon, Trey. He is said to have worn a golden wreath, and the reason that he did this was hiding his receding hairline, but also, as we know, he's not just known for the receding hairline. He invented the Caesar cut, which is basically like George Clooney in the 90s. You know what I mean? That's like the Caesar. So, yeah, it's Julius Caesar.
I'm sorry.
He lived.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the Caesar haircut.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, look it up. A lot of dudes in the
Hell,
90s had it. Like very bangs heavy.
I looked up Caesar. Okay, so the bangs are part of it. All right. Real short on the sides.
Yeah.
Long on top. Okay.
Yeah, like George Clooney and ER kind of had a Caesar thing going on.
All right.
But yeah, that's Julius Caesar. He lived, he hit, he was stabbed, and his legacy lives on today.
Does it? So was I right about what I said earlier? He maintained dictatorship. He became the dude. And then after that, they were all called Caesar, right?
Yes.
Or like Caesar, Augustus, Caesar, whatever. But that's because of him, right?
And that guy, I totally forgot this thing. I totally fucking forgot this thing. So he named his son was also Julius Caesar, but to tell them apart, he was like, he wasn't like a little person, but he was sort of a homunculus. So they always just called him Little Caesar. And he was
pizza guy.
And he was bored one day because his daddy wouldn't let him fight in the army because he was so short, and he invented pizza. So,
buddy, I could be wrong here. You know how we both are, but like, didn't that come up on it last week? Did it not? Maybe it didn't. I feel like maybe that joke was made last week too.
Well, I was pretty slammed last week, so I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, no, that hits. You know, I mean, he's one of those. I know we also talked last week about like. He's a good example of that thing where I feel like Julius Caesar is pretty much revered historically. I don't know about revered, but like respected at the very least.
Yeah.
It's like this dude was a dude who hit.
Yeah,
right?
But he did some Hitler shit.
Exactly. But it's why, because like he did a lot of really horrific stuff. And so it's just wild how history be and how that's all going to play out. Circling back to our conversation last week. So yeah, well, I guess that does it for Joe, are we gonna? We need to read anything. What are we gonna do?
Oh, right. You want me to read some emails?
If you got them.
Fuck my ass. Hold on. I forgot we're doing it different.
This is our new format.
Yeah,
so, excuse us for some growing pains here.
I'm so sorry, Trev. Well, this will probably be cut out because of my dad being a really good producer and all that. Let's see. Primary inbox. Okay, these have
been vetted.
Not at all. We're just going to go. We're going to read 2 or 3, and we're going to go from most recent to okay. So, hey guys, this is subject line: the intersection of box music and drinking songs. Okay. By the way, we rarely get a bad email, so the vetting process is not really too necessary. Hey guys, I was making my way through my YouTube subscriptions, catching up on what I hadn't watched yet, and as I was enjoying Adam Neely's latest video, this bit he did about Bach made me think of POA. The intro to this message is a lot of ground to cover, so let me break it down. I can't read this whole fucking thing. There's also a bunch of links. Hold on. Fuck, I picked the wrong one. Adam Neely is a musician whose YouTube channel delves into topics like music theory, jazz, and notable composers and compositions. Adam is also the bassist for a fantastic electro jazz band called Sungazer, which I highly recommend you check out. Jazz isn't for everyone, but I promise you'll at least dig one of their songs. In the Q&A he recently put on YouTube, Adam answered the question, what is your personal favorite Goldberg variation? Mine's Bill, by the way. The Goldberg variations were written by that famous composer of the Baroque era, Johann Sebastian Bach. And as you probably know, Bach's compositions have had a long-lasting impact on Western music as a whole. Folks still study and perform his stuff and plagiarize from him. In modern times, the variations were first published in 1741 and are named after Johann Gottlieb Goldberg, a very early biography of Bach written by a guy named Johann Nicholas Fort. A lot of fucking Johanns back then, man. claims
it's
that
just like John,
yeah,
but for them, I
it
think.
really is. Yeah, it
Yeah,
claims
I mean,
that
it might literally be.
it is.
I don't
Johann.
know.
Yeah,
right.
claims that variations were composed by Bach as part of Goldberg's music instruction, and although there's some doubt as to whether this biography was completely true, it includes a story about Bach and Goldberg that's pretty interesting. There was a dude named Count Kasserling who would travel through Leipzig, where Bach lived, on his way to Electoral Court of Saxony, where he served as Russia's ambassador, and he'd bring Goldberg with him so that Goldberg could get keyboard lessons from Bach. Now, back then, traveling through often meant stopping along the way for a period of time well beyond the one night in a hotel that you or I might do while traveling a few states away to stay at Mima's for the holidays, and Count Kasserling was reputed to be in poor health, so he didn't travel well at any stretch. While the Count was posted up in Leipzig, he asked Bach to give Goldberg something soothing to play in the evenings after he'd gone to bed so that the soft music could help him with his insomnia. And there are several variations that are soft and gentle, so I could easily imagine that story being true, even if it's anecdotal. In Adam's video, he says, my personal favorite is Goldberg Variation 30, the quadlibet variation. Bach wrote a series of 30 variations on a theme, and the 30th one is a mashup of a lot of German folks and drinking songs that was meant to be humorous. At the time, it was common for Bach to amuse himself and his family by mashing up songs that had nothing to do with one another as a bit of musical joke, and I love this because it's honestly kind of the same thing as the YouTube channel There I Ruined It, which ruins songs by mashing up ones that shouldn't go together. We don't really know these German folk songs that Bach used in his 30th Goldberg variation, and so we don't find the humor in it. Instead, it sounds to us just like pretty music, which to me is proof that you need to know the culture from which a music comes to fully appreciate it and get all the in-jokes that would go along with it. And so when we listen to the 30th Goldberg variation and we don't get the joke, we don't get the humor. It would be kind of like a musician 300 years in the future listening to all these instances of the lick sprinkled throughout jazz music, but not getting the cultural context. So there you go. Classical music might sound fancy to us, but back when it was written, it could have just been somebody's joke remix of what the locals were toe tapping to while quaffing their grog at the local honky tonk. Keep putting on airs, and I'll keep being an airhead. Aaron. That was fantastic.
Okay. That was some real nerd shit, but was that is genuinely very interesting. I've never thought about that way. The idea that Bach was like remixing other jams and stuff at the time, and that people understood that at the time, but it's been lost to the sands of time. Yeah, that's real interesting shit that I would never have assumed or thought of myself. So that was cool.
That was cool. I got one more. It's a short one. Since that one, I've got to count that as 3 emails. This is the subject line, the Leonardo da Vinci paradox.
You sent me this one, and I was going to pull it up because I thought you might miss it. But go ahead.
So, hi, fellows, or should I say Corey, since Trey can't be bothered to read these emails. I saw that. Let me defend Trey here. If I wanted him to, he would. And there have been instances where my eyeballs were hurting and he did. So, like, that ain't a him thing. Now, he would never sign into the account and fucking peruse them. I have to forward them to him.
That's
so you're kind of right
what
that.
She means, buddy. That's like second thing is what she means.
Yeah. Well, then never mind.
So,
I defend you none. It's true.
Yeah.
I saw this article about science understanding how Leonardo da Vinci described the paradox of bubbles underwater not going in a straight line. I didn't even know he had a paradox. Apparently, bubbles less than 0.926 millimeter diameter actually will rise in a straight fashion, but larger bubbles rise in a circular or corkscrew pattern. Ultra pure water will also bubble straight, which is what my initial guess was. Small microbes and such in water cause the bubbles to bounce around, combined with the air forcing to the surface would look circular or a corkscrew pattern. Below is the article that I stumbled across. I am about scienced out for tonight. Stay fancy and looking forward to hearing your dad on the podcast. Jen, I'm glad you sent me that article because I'm going to pin it here and I'm going to read it next time we do Fuck Yo Shit Up with Stocho, which I believe actually was on the episode last week that we did. But hey, y'all stay fancy. I will.
I want to say one thing. I'm sorry. I can't not. Jen's email again. I'm going to reread the first line. She said, "Hi, fellows," or should I say, Corey, since Trey can't be bothered to read these emails. Notably, she spelled Trey Trey. So, Jen, since you can't be bothered to spell my goddamn name right, I can't be bothered to give a damn. How about that? How's that sound, Jen?
That's right.
No, I'm just kidding.
Suck
I love
it, Jen.
You. I just wanted to point out. That's right, Jen. God damn it. Anyway,
suck it.
Go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, stay fancy, suck it, Jen, and make sure to download this show, like, subscribe, tell all your friends. That's very important, and support our sponsors because that helps the show stay on the air. We love you, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
See you. Bye.